So Anthropic is joining the agentic browsing race, but they're not building a browser. Instead, they decided to create a Chrome extension, which they're calling Claude for Chrome, which I think is a very smart move. Now, this is under early research preview. Only a subset of Max subscribers have access. I am one of them. So in this video, I'm going to show you how the experience looks like, what are some of the strengths and weaknesses, and also some example use cases with real demos. Every AI company is trying to build some sort of agentic browsing experience. We have seen a comment from Perplexity. There are rumors that OpenAI is also working on an agentic browser. Google already has Gemini and Chrome, and now Anthropic is joining the ranks. But with the agentic browsing experience, you also are going to see some new prompt injection techniques and vulnerabilities. So we're going to look at some of those later in the video. But first, let me walk you through how does it look like, and then let me show you some example use cases. Here's how the experience looks like. It's a Chrome extension. When you click on it, you're going to see that this sidebar opens. It's a chat interface very similar to Gemini, Claude, or ChatGPT. But let me walk you through a few demos. So the first test was to ask the agent to post something on my behalf to X. It was first able to navigate to X without any problems and then posted that message. By default, it's going to ask for your permission before taking any actions. You can change this default behavior by either allowing a subset of actions or allowing the agent to take any action if you're feeling adventurous. The way it works is that it's going to first take a screenshot of the web page that it's looking at. Then it plans the action that it's going to perform. After performing an action, it again takes a screenshot to confirm the action has been taken and what results have been achieved. In my case, it first posted the message, but before hitting the post button, again, it asked for my permission, which is a very interesting design choice, especially if you're looking at sensitive information. But if you're logged into your account, say, for example, on X or Gmail, then this can really help you automate some of the tasks. The post is already live on X. Let me show you some of the examples. Okay, for this next task, I asked the agent to look for an apartment in a specific area with a given price range. But I also added some ambiguous information to see how it's going to deal with that. For example, I asked it to look for a place with a backyard. Usually on websites like Zillow, they don't mention backyard, but rather mentions places with outdoor spaces. So first, it navigated to the Zillow website within that city range, which was pretty nice to see. Then it also navigated to input the price range that I had asked for. Now, the way the system works is that it takes an action, then usually waits for 2 to 3 seconds. And I think this ensures that after the click, the page has been reloaded properly. So it's a little on the slower side. This whole thing took about 10 minutes. That filter reduced the search space. After that, it applied the house filter because we are specifically looking for houses. That again reduced the search space even further. And then it decided to apply the other two filters, the first one was in-laundry units and the other one was outdoor spaces. The action that it takes is very human-like, especially if it's working in a website that it hasn't seen before. So just like humans, it makes assumptions, click on things. If it goes to the wrong places, then tracks back and take the actions again. Ultimately, it was able to find only one house. You can see this place is extremely expensive, but it worked. Another use case is to use this as a research agent that's going to help you extract information from different websites. So in this case, I asked it to look at the recent price action of NVIDIA stock and tell me what caused it. So it started looking at different websites and starting gathering information from those. Now, this is extremely helpful. You can do a Google search, but Google search will just give you indexed information at a high level. But in this case, it's going to each website individually and gathering information from these web pages. So it's a lot more natural, and it can read a lot of different content really fast, which I think makes it extremely useful for a task like this. And at the end, it correctly identified the root cause of what caused the price action in the NVIDIA stock, which is pretty good. Another use case would be to use it as a research assistant if you are shopping. In this case, I asked it to look for a specific camera, but I did not specify which websites to look at. First, it decided to do Google search, which gives it a baseline of the pricing. Then it decided to look at the shopping tab on Google. After that, it started looking at the same product on multiple different websites. These included Amazon, Best Buy, B&H, eBay, which is pretty cool to see. It navigates from one website to another one, and it's looking at the same product. This seemed to be able to look at a single tab at the moment, which means that it's going to move from one website to another one. But the good thing is that it has memory. So whenever it gathers information from a website, it can put it in its memory and reuse it later. So ultimately, it was able to give me a list. I wanted to see whether it's going to hallucinate the links. So I specifically asked for links, and surprisingly, it was able to remember the links. The links actually worked, which was pretty neat. So it can be a really useful tool for initial search. Another use case is going to be to download data from internet. So in this case, I asked it to download the W9 form from the IRS website. Now, this test not only looks at its capability to find information on websites, but I also wanted to see how it's going to deal with downloading files from the internet. I was testing this in auto mode, where it can take the actions without asking me for explicit permissions. So first, it was able to navigate to the proper place to find that W9 form, which was really good. And then it was also able to open that form. But after that, something interesting happened. So when it comes to downloading anything, even though if it's in the auto mode, it will still ask for explicit permission, which is a very good design choice. You just don't want to trust these agents to download malicious data files from internet. This was really good, and I think it's a very good implementation, given Anthropic is a safety-focused company. Now, it opened the save box, but the final click is going to be user click or user permission. So I had to click on the save in order to save the actual file. Another important use case is going to be to fill out web forms on websites. This is where these agents can be extremely helpful. So I provided some dummy information to the agent to fill out the W9 form that was open on the IRS website. Now, this is where I started seeing some very interesting things. But first, it's not going to fill out any sensitive information. So in this case, it told me that it cannot fill out the social security number, which again, I think is a very good design pattern. Especially, you don't want to trust these agents with your sensitive personal information or financial information. So it started filling out the form with some initial information, but then it got stuck in a loop where it was describing the correct actions to take, where to fill out the information, but it was looking at the wrong pages. This might be due to the complexity of the task, but at the end, the agent told me that it had completely filled out all the information that I have requested. But then I had to remind the agent that that's not the case. In fact, I said, I don't see all the information on the form. I can only see the name filled out. Can you confirm that it's correct? It took a screenshot again and went back, started looking at the form and realized that it hasn't filled out the form, right? So it was stuck in this loop. I don't know if it has to do with the complexity of the form or the length of the document. I haven't replicated this same behavior on any other web forms yet. So if you get access, make sure to test it out. It will be an interesting test. But at the end of this test, Claude was not able to fill out the W-9 form based on the information that I provided. When it comes to sensitive information, whether it's personal or financial, Claude is very conservative. So for example, if you ask it to access your bank account or financial details, Claude will take you to the website, but it's not going to take any actions on your behalf. Now, this is important, especially I do not trust any of these agents when it comes to financial or personal information. So it's good to see that Anthropic is taking this seriously. Some of these other implementation are using agents in a sandbox. Again, I will not trust inputting my account information into a remote sandbox. So at least this is running locally, but still you want to be very careful. This is currently available to a select group of about 1,000 max plan users. You can join the waitlist if you want. And as I said, it's in a research preview. So as you saw, some of the things work, some of them don't work. But the most important thing that I wanted to highlight towards the end of the video was some of the vulnerabilities and new attack vectors that are going to come into play when we start using these agentic browsing experiences. And they have done some studies on mitigating some of those. For example, prompt injection is going to be a huge issue, especially you can just put something in a website embedded and the agent probably is going to read an image with certain instructions, right? Or will execute malicious code. So in order to mitigate against those, first they have site level permission. So user can grant or revoke Claude's access to specific websites at any time in the settings. Actually, if you go to settings here, you're going to see a list of websites that you have approved. So you can remove those from permissions if you want. And the second thing is action confirmation. So as we saw, with every action, Claude is going to ask you for permission unless you enable skip permissions. Even though if you skip permissions in the anonymous mode, Claude will still not do certain actions. For example, it's not going to access your private data or try to log into your bank account or maybe input your SSN. So for example, they say that we have blocked Claude from using websites from certain high-risk categories such as financial services, adult content, and pirated content. And this is critical because at this point, we can't really trust these agentic systems or their capabilities. So this is a really good mitigation, but still, I think you want to make sure that you observe the actions the agent is taking. Now, with these mitigations, they show that the current system with Sonnet 4, which I believe is the model driving the agent, they were able to reduce prompt injection vulnerabilities to 11%. If you don't include these mitigation, it's about 23%. So almost 50% reduction, which is great, but still 11% is a lot. They have done some specific red teamings for specific attack vectors. So one of them is hidden malicious form fields in web pages where they're not visible to users, but Claude can read them. So on a challenge set of 4 browser specific attack types, they say that they have mitigated the error rate from almost 36% to 0%, which is great, right? But that's just one challenge, right? So therefore, they say that before we make Claude for Chrome widely available, we want to expand the universe of attacks we are thinking about and learn how to get these percentages much closer to 0. So with these new browsing experiences, I think there are going to be a lot to do for security. Also, do let me know what you think about these agentic browsers and how would these come into play in your own workflows. Anyways, I hope you found this video useful. Thanks for watching, and as always, see you in the next one.